Hello and welcome to another video. Hellblade Senua Sacrifice is a weird game. But how weird is it? Let's take this game to the lab and let us analyze it. It was so weird that it gave me nightmares the first time I played it. And I mean premium high quality nightmares. The type of nightmares that would be certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I am a weird person and I like weird things. At least I like good weird things. And Hellblade is my kind of weird.
Because I like order. Hell, I love it.
So join me as we go to the lab to analyze this game, open up the brains of this game, and we are going to dissect it. And I also talk about my experience with the game after playing and beating the game. So without wasting any more time, let's get into the video. Hellblade, like I said, is a weird game, and it is one of the best gaming experience of my life. You play as a woman with a mental illness, psychosis, and it shows because of how insane this game is. I remember one of my close friends telling me to play Hellblade and I was reluctant. I watched some gameplay videos and I was like, nope.
No, I don't think I will.
I saw it was on sale on the Xbox app on Windows and it was so cheap, around $5 or so, and I bought it. It has been sitting in my game library for over a year and I finally decided to play it. After playing Hellblade, I am disappointed.
Disappointed!
I am disappointed in myself for not playing this game sooner. Holy shit, this game is insane. So, as always, before we analyze this game, let us know a few things about Hellblade. Hellblade was released August 2017 and it was developed by Ninja Theory and it is available on PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and Windows. I bought mine on the Xbox App Store for Windows. I played the Windows version, so I will be talking about the Windows version in this video. So, how was this game received when it was released? Did people like the game? Did people hate it? Was the game good? Was it bad? So let us look at a few review websites. IGN, Hellblade got 9 out of 10. When we look at Metacritic, on the critic side, it got 88% out of 100. User score 8 out of 10. GameSpot 8 out of 10. Polygon 8.5 out of 10. When we look at Steam, recent review, it's very positive. All reviews very positive. PC Gamer gave this game 78%. So we see that the game has high scores or ratings. But I always say this in my videos and I will say it again in this video. Reviews are more subjective in nature. So because this game got high scores or high ratings does not mean you must like the game. You are allowed to like the game or you are allowed to hate the game. Because a lot of people like it does not mean you must like it. That is the beauty of personal preference. In the end, you have to play the game for yourself and decide if you like the game or not. My hardware is Core i7 10th Gen CPU with NVIDIA RTX 2060 with 6 gigs of VRAM, 32 gigs of RAM and 4 TB SSD. This is the PC requirement according to Steam. The game ran fine 98% of the time, so I think it will be better for you to use a computer with a dedicated graphics card. Even with my hardware, an RTX 2060, I was still experiencing frame drops, but not as bad. It was like 3-4 times, but it was not bad. Let's say it just dipped for like a second and goes back to normal. I tested it on an RTX 3050 Ti and the same thing, I was still experiencing frame drops. Like 98-99% of the time it ran smooth, but once in a while I just experienced frame drops. So I think it will be better for you to use a computer with a dedicated graphics card. Now let us analyze Hellblade and see how it relates to mental health. Talking about this game means I may dip into the story a little bit because Hellblade is a story heavy game, but I will not give spoilers. They did not focus too much on the combat, but rather they focus more on the story, adventure and exploration. Hellblade is a dark fantasy game set in the Norse mythology and Celtic culture. You play as Senua, a warrior who goes on an adventure to Hell to save the soul of her lover by defeating Hela. That is the summary of the story. This detail feels like it is simple, but no. It starts off very simple, but the game starts to become very complex and broad as you play it. A lot of things will be revealed as you play the game. You will face Norse entities like Valraven, Swords. Is this Sword or Sort or Swords?
It's called Surt.
Gam, and even Hela. You see, the Hela in this game is not like the Hela in MCU. If you've seen the Hela in the MCU, how sexy she is. No, the Hela in Hellblade is not sexy. The Hela in this game is creepy and terrifying and nightmare-inducing. In fact, Hela was one of the major reasons why I had nightmares when I played this game. What makes Hellblade weird is that most of the events of this game happens inside Senua's head. Most of them are not real, but everything is real to her because of her mental illness, which is psychosis. It is real to her, which means it is real to you. You are experiencing the world as someone with psychosis through the eyes of Senua. So, understanding what psychosis is would make the game make sense, if that makes sense. Hellblade was a game made to raise awareness on psychosis. I commend the developers of Hellblade because of their commitment to the medical accuracy of what psychosis should look or feel like. In the making of this game, they got professional advice from experts on mental health. This made me curious. I wanted to know more about psychosis. So what is psychosis? To be clear, psychosis is not the same as psychopathy. They are different things. So what is psychosis? Psychosis, according to Google, a mental disorder characterized by a disconnection from reality. Psychosis may occur as a result of a psychiatric illness, such as schizophrenia. In other instances, it may be caused by a health condition, medication, or drug use. Possible symptoms include delusions, hallucinations, talking incoherently, and agitation. The person with the condition usually isn't aware of his or her behavior. Treatments may include medication and talk therapy. So like I said, we should not confuse psychosis with psychopathy. What is psychopathy? According to Google, psychopathy is a neuropsychiatric disorder marked by deficient emotional responses, lack of empathy, and poor behavioral controls, commonly resulting in persistent antisocial deviance and criminal behavior. In summary, psychosis, disconnection from reality, hallucinations, and stuff. Then, psychopathy, lack of empathy, poor behavioral controls, antisocial behavior, and just being a bad person in general. I found this video from this channel, MedCircle, a YouTube channel that talks about mental illness and other related issues. I strongly recommend their channel. A guest doctor gave the perfect definition of what psychosis is.
So psychosis in and of itself, the definition of psychosis is a breach in reality. So Kyle and Callie, people that are experiencing psychosis are experiencing the world very different than you or I or the majority of people. Their senses are picking up things that aren't real, but it's real to them. That's the important thing. So psychosis entails delusions, and the definition of a delusion is a fixed false belief, but a very strong fixed false belief.
The developers of Hellblade also interviewed a mental health expert to fully understand psychosis to properly represent it in their game.
To make a game about a warrior with psychotic mental illness as its central theme was fraught with danger. Mental illness such as psychosis is still taboo and rarely acknowledged in a century of cinema, never mind the new medium of games. Where it does feature, it often conflates psychosis and psychopathy associated with a lack of empathy. It is unfortunate that these two words sound so similar that they are used interchangeably in media. I must admit that I didn't have to look very far to discover my own ignorance of the subject. So we reached out to Paul Fletcher, psychiatrist and professor of health neuroscience at University of Cambridge.
Psychosis is a descriptive term, and it refers to having a loss of contact with objective reality. So it's characterized by two main sets of symptoms. One of them is hallucinations, where somebody experiences perceptions when there is no actual objective thing out there to perceive.
You're already dead. Who are you?
And the other is delusions, where somebody comes to very often bizarre, unpleasant, frightening beliefs when there's no good evidence in favour of them.
There's no doubt about it. The source of the darkness is in Helheim. And the goddess Hela holds his soul there.
Our understanding of psychosis is still very much a mystery, and ways of treating it are still primitive compared to physical illness. After all, it is easy to see the pain and suffering caused by physical diseases or physical trauma. It is not so easy to see the mental suffering and trauma of severe mental illness. But what if we could find a way to see it?
Now that we understand psychosis a little bit, what happens in Hellblade, as well as the gameplay and mechanics, will make a whole lot of sense.
No!
Like I said earlier, Hellblade is a story-heavy game that focuses more on adventure and exploration than combat. Yes, there is combat in this game, but it is not so frequent. I'll talk about the combat later in the video. Hellblade is a third-person game and full of puzzles. Solving the puzzle in Hellblade requires you think outside the box. You don't need common sense to play Hellblade. You need supreme intergalactic sense. I was able to solve all the puzzles, although not immediately, but there was one puzzle that pissed me off. It took me about 1 hour to figure out. God. There is a particular puzzle while crossing that bridge. After I defeat Salt,
It's called certain.
and Valraven, and you start to cross that bridge, there's one puzzle there that pissed me off. I spent like 1 hour there, and then when I solved it, I started looking stupid. Just look how obvious the thing was, and I did not see that. I digress. To make Hellblade as accurate as possible, the developers created visual and auditory hallucinations. I'll break the hallucinations into two parts. Let's start with auditory hallucinations. While playing, you constantly hear voices in Senua's head. You constantly hear voices in her head. These voices are known as Furies.
How will she get through?
She'll need to find another way.
Truth, scent. Find your own path.
There's always another way.
There's always a way.
Find your own way.
You just have to find it.
The voices in her head is one of the symptoms of psychosis, which is called auditory hallucinations. The developers use binaural audio, a technique used to mimic the way humans hear things, to make the auditory hallucinations as realistic and accurate as possible. The voices in Senua's head mock her sometimes, or they help her sometimes. So you can't say they are all positive or negative.
She went to the wilds along. Why did she go to the wilds?
She wanted to fight her own darkness. She thought she could beat her own darkness.
Did she beat her darkness?
No. It nearly killed her, but she tried.
Truth helped her.
She'd be dead.
Or sometimes they help her. Like when you're in combat and someone wants to attack you from behind, they alert you. Or they even tell you where to go when you're trying to solve puzzles.
Don't let them get behind you. Don't let them surround you. Behind you! Focus! It's the only way. Focus!
Let's talk about visual hallucinations. As much as you experience the auditory hallucinations while playing Hellblade, you also experience visual hallucinations. Visual hallucinations are part of the symptoms of psychosis. The way it is executed in Hellblade is a whole new experience. To solve puzzles, you must see things that are not there, which is basically what visual hallucination is. Seeing things that are not there. Or train your mind to look for shapes and patterns.
The runes seal the gates to hell. Focus your inner eye. And you too will see what's hidden in plain sight.
Focus.
Look closer.
Look. Use your mind.
I can see one.
Hold it in your mind's eye. Find one like it to open the gate.
You must think outside the box. The visual hallucinations extend to the bosses or enemies you fight. You face Valraven, Sort, is it Sort? Sort,
It's called Cert.
Gam, all fought inside her head, but it was real to Senua. Valraven's illusions is what amazed me the most. I feel like Valraven's illusions are what will open your mind to how the illusion mechanics work in this game.
Illusion hides the path to Valraven. Don't trust your eyes. Find another way to see the truth.
Something else that creeped me out was when Senua breaks the fourth wall. Sometimes she talks to the camera and then I'm like, holy shit, she can see me. She's talking to me. She can see me and she's talking to me.
Oh, she heard us. There's no going back. You took him from me. I beg you, let him go. I'll give you what you want.
Towards the beginning of the game, you will get a notification saying that the dark rot will keep growing each time you fail. And when the rot reaches her head, game over, you die. All your progress will be lost and you have to start the game all over again. What the game is basically trying to say is that there is a disease or an infection on Senua's right arm. And each time you fail, that is, if you die during combat or if you fall off a beam of wood, the rot will grow.
I've found you, Senua.
I wish you could have seen my home before these dark times.
If you notice my gameplay, if you notice Senua's right arm, you see that her arm is looking darker than her left arm. That means the rot is growing gradually. So, what happens when the rot gets to her head? Is the game trying to say that there is permanent death? Is there permanent death in Hellblade? So is the game trying to say that when you are 90% into the game and you've almost completed the game, and then the rot reaches her head, you have to start all over again from the beginning? For those of us that have played the game, we know what is going on. We understand what the game is trying to do. But I won't be surprised if there are people out there that have played the game, but they don't know what happens when the rot reaches Senua's head. Those of us that know, we know. If you don't know, that is something you have to find out for yourself. I am not going to tell you what happens when the rot reaches Senua's head. That is one of the mysteries of Hellblade. Even though I said Hellblade is a story-heavy game, that doesn't mean there is no combat. There is combat, but the combat is not for everybody. Some people may like it, some people may not like it. The combat is not like God of War or Devil May Cry, hack and slash type of stuff. You see, the gameplay looks like God of War, but the combat is not like God of War. The combat is slow. You spend most of your time exploring, but this does not mean lack of combat makes the game boring. On the contrary, every combat in this game is meaningful. Every time you fight, the combat signifies a new battle she must overcome in her mind. The summary is, don't take everything in this game at face value or too literally. The game itself hints at most of all these things.
The hardest battles are fought in the mind. He gave her the sword with which to fight in more ways than one. And she gave him her word, never to surrender.
For every battle won, a greater battle takes its place. And so it goes. Until we fall.
If we are talking about combat, definitely we are going to talk about how difficult the combat is. How is the difficulty? In the game menu, The difficulty is set for only the combat. Every other aspect of the game remains the same. The puzzles are the same, everything is the same, but the combat, you can adjust the combat difficulty. In my opinion, I don't think the combat was hard. I think it was balanced. The combat is pattern based, like most games. You parry or block, perform perfect block, and you cause the enemies to lose balance, creating an opening for you to land multiple attacks. There are heavy attacks from enemies that can cause you to lose your own balance too, so be careful. You can also slow down time using your focus ability. Slow down time, take out your enemies. Sounds similar to Fear, sounds similar to Max Payne. I don't think Hellblade suffers from pacing issues. The pacing is good for me. That's me anyway. The game is more of a cinematic experience. Some people may get bored watching a lot of cutscenes because this game has a lot of cutscenes, but I really enjoyed playing Hellblade. This was a totally different experience from what I was used to. There are a couple of boss fights which in my opinion are quite satisfying. I won't consider the boss fights as something difficult.
Where's he going?
So, is this an RPG or not? Hellblade is not an RPG. It is not open world either. You don't unlock anything, you don't upgrade anything, you don't change ammo, you don't customize anything. This game is just straight to the point adventure. In fact, if you notice my gameplay, the screen is blank. No HUD, no health bar, nothing. It's just blank. It's like watching a movie, but you control the events of the movie. The only thing you collect in Hellblade are Lorestones. So you go in front of them, you focus, and then you start to hear some of the Norse mythology stories, and they are very interesting to listen to. Sometimes when I discover a Lorestone and I focus on it and Ruth starts to talk, I always stand there sometimes just to listen to what he's saying. Or if I'm moving and I start to get too far and his voice starts to fade, I go back so that I'll just listen to the sweet story of Druth. You will get to know who Druth is while you play the game. I am not going to say who he is. So, speaking of Lorestones, I didn't collect everything, but the only thing you collect in the game is Lorestones. But if you do collect all the Lorestones, there is a secret cutscene at the end of the game. Not collecting all the Lorestones will not change or affect the end of the game. The only difference is just that extra cutscene. So whether you collect all the Lorestones or not, it is not going to change the outcome. It is not going to change who will die or who will not die, or who you will save or who you cannot save. No, the outcome of the game is still going to be the same. The only difference is the extra cutscene. But since I did not collect everything, I did not get to see the extra cutscene. So I am going to replay the game several times, do a lot of exploration, and then find all the Lorestones and see what this extra cutscene is.
The Northmen tell this story about the death of Baldur. It begins with dark dreams. Night after night, Baldur dreams of his own death, and the gods fear for his life. So Baldur's mother makes everything in the world: fire, water, iron, stone, earth, wood, beasts, birds, serpents, poison, sickness, swear an oath not to harm her son.
Since this is not an RPG, there is no new game plus. But can you replay Hellblade if you beat the game? Do you carry over your progress when you replay the game? You can replay Hellblade, but you replay the game by selecting chapters you have played before, or you replay the game by selecting Start New Game from the main menu. Replaying chapters will not overwrite your main playthrough, but if you start new game, it will overwrite your previous playthrough. What this means is that basically replaying the game is more of collecting Lorestones. I talked about Lorestones earlier. If you have not collected all the Lorestones to unlock that extra cutscene, you can go back and replay previous missions you have played before. So if you've only gotten 3 out of 5 Lorestones in a chapter, when you replay that chapter, you will continue as if you have gotten 3 Lorestones. So you explore and then you find where the other Lorestones are, you find it and then you unlock everything. So you go back, find any chapter you have not collected all the Lorestones, and then you collect all the Lorestones. Although I have not collected everything like I said, so I have not even seen the extra cutscene for myself. I don't even want to watch it on YouTube. I want to play the game and see it for myself. If you start a new game instead of replaying chapters, it will reset the rot growing on Senua's right arm. Remember I said something about an infection growing on her right arm every time you fail, that is, every time you die or you fall off a beam of wood. But if you replay the game by selecting chapters, you meet the rot just as you left it when you completed that chapter on your first playthrough. The sound design of Hellblade is impressive. The background music, in my opinion, is perfect, especially during combat. I mean, just listen to this. Hellblade has one of the best game soundtracks I've ever heard. My favorite part of Hellblade was towards the end where I was about to face Hela. That part where you fight those enemies and run towards Hela while the bridge rearranges itself. Epic moment.
And a murderer! And if you really are Hela, then I have a sword here that can kill a god!
Look at you. Running forward, moving backwards to wallow your miserable past.
Use headphones if you want the full audio experience of Hellblade. I have different Bluetooth speakers in my house. I tried them, good sound, but when I switched to headphones, the audio was a totally different experience. I think even in the game, at one point they will notify you that if you want to experience the full sound of the game, use headphones. So yes, I suggest you use headphones. There are a lot of creepy stuff in Hellblade. I said it in the beginning of this video. I had nightmares after playing this game for the first time. This is coming from somebody that played Fear 1, 2, 3 without having nightmares at all. But I had nightmares because of Hellblade. There are creepy faces on the wall, especially the face of our mother that you keep seeing on the wall. It is creepy to me. And then there were this set of monsters that I saw in the game. You have to get one sword, and before you get the sword, you have to complete Odin's trials. There is a stage where you have to navigate your way through darkness, and inside the darkness, there were some very weird, creepy looking monsters or creatures or whatever the hell those things were. Those things were very creepy. Look at those things. Just look at the way this thing is moving. Look at the way the body is doing like this, and the way it is now stepping, and then it is this thing was very creepy. Oh my god. When I played Fear 2 and I thought that guy running around with briefcase was a very creepy thing to behold, I have seen something worse. This stuff is very, just look at the way this thing is moving. What the hell is this? And then those hands that keep coming out of the wall, I will just show it. Maybe YouTube will age restrict the video. YouTube's recent policy when it comes to violence and gore and stuff is becoming so ridiculous. So I don't even know if they are going to age restrict this video. So I might end up cutting out this part. Who knows? Then there is one monster that haunts in the darkness that you have to carry torch, and you have to be running away and looking for light so that the monster will not catch you. That part was also very creepy. God damn. I said it before, Hela looks creepy as fuck in this game. Let us compare Hela in Hellblade and Hela in the MCU. You see how sexy she looks in the MCU. You see how beautiful and sexy she looks in the MCU. Now look at Hela in Hellblade. Hela in Hellblade looks like an actual Hela. She looks like something that comes from hell. Imagine looking at this thing in the night. Imagine you wake up in the night and you want to pee, and then you see something like this looking at you. Man, this game gave me nightmares. But I love the game. I enjoyed this game. This is a very, very, very well done game. I enjoy Hellblade. This is one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. And I strongly recommend this game. If you have not played Hellblade, I strongly recommend it. You see, when you look at the way the gameplay is, how slow it is, you know, the walking, the trekking, you know, this thing looks like walking simulator. But trust me, this is not walking simulator. This is a very different experience. But like I said, some people might not like how slow and cinematic the game is because there are a lot of cutscenes. The game is story heavy. But I love the experience. I love the game. So I highly recommend Hellblade.
What is it? It feels... It's different. It feels... okay. Is it okay?
This is where my story once began. And so it has to end here. Because I cannot see further than this.
Follow us. We have another story to tell.
So tell me what you think in the comment section below. We have come to the end of this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Have you played Hellblade? What do you think about this game? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Was the game too slow for you? What was your experience playing this game? So let's have our own discussion. Let us analyze the game down in the comment section below. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like. I have a music channel where I post my songs that I compose. Please go and subscribe to that channel. I also have a GMV channel, which yes, I have not been posting in a while, but I am going to try and start posting frequently this year. So this is the GMV channel. Go and subscribe to that channel, and then don't forget to subscribe to this channel where we pick a video game and then we analyze it, or we revisit old and forgotten games and we discuss it, how good were they. So subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and as always, share the video, and I will see you in the next video.